Hello, this is Dr. Harold Wong, and today I'm going to talk about an article that was published July 4th, 2012 in the Arizona Republic. In other words, on our Independence Day. Well, a lot has happened since 1776, and I'm not sure our forefathers would agree with how weak the moral timber and the ability to control yourself has been with our current generation. So I'm going to go through 4 strategies that can change your finances dramatically. In these examples, I'm going to assume the examples relate to a baby boomer age 50. First issue, can I control my housing expenses? For many, outside of income tax and Social Security taxes, housing is your greatest single expense. Here's the common thing that I see because of our real estate recession. A baby boomer bought their house for $400,000 in 2005, and now the value is $200,000. They're paying $3,000 in housing expense when you count the mortgage, interest, principal, real estate tax, homeowners association dues, home insurance, repairs, and other expenses. People have no idea all the hidden expenses that occur when you own a home. You find yourself going every other weekend to Home Depot or Lowe's, and you can't get out of there without spending $100 or $200 on this or that. So what if you cut your housing expenses in half? Guess what? A lot of people have already lost their home. A lot of people are hanging on and making the mistake of draining their 401k or retirement savings. No. That doesn't make any sense. That will destroy your retirement future. Instead, you're going to have to face facts, and I counsel many baby boomers on this. You're going to either go through foreclosure, deed in lieu of foreclosure, or short sale. Get out of that house. You know, I know you've lost the money you've put into, whether it's your down payment, your fix-up expenses, the monthly payments you made for years, but you can't afford it. So get out of that. You can rent basically the same house in the same subdivision for about $1,500 a month. So you cut your expenses in half. And what will saving $1,500 a month do for you? Well, if you earn 4% interest over the next 15 years, saving that $1,500 a month will become an extra $370,366 in your retirement account. That's huge. Second issue is, can you control your car expenses? Many people have no idea how much a car costs. Many people buy a new $30,000 car and trade it in every 5 years. After 15 years, even with the normal trade-in allowance, they'd spend $60,000 in capital costs plus $20,000 of insurance. Now in contrast, here's how the millionaire next door does it. If you've read that wonderful book by Dr. Tom Stanley, who's researched how people, normal folks, who didn't inherit any substantial sums, became the millionaire next door, meaning you can't recognize them by the car they drive, the clothes they wear, the watch that's on their wrist, their shoes that they have, or the house they live in. And a basic secret was that just lived under their means. So let's show you how the millionaire next door, Dr. Wong, bought his car. When my 1984 Saab Turbo died, I didn't have time to look for a car. I was in the middle of an immigration project that helped hundreds of thousands of immigrants, writing an ABC show, doing a multimedia campaign, and doing a documentary. And this was in 1997. So I met a guy at the Scottsdale, Arizona Chamber of Commerce. He's selling his mom's car out of Minnesota, an old 1987 Volvo, for $2,800. It had 110,000 miles on it. Well, I drove it for years until it got to 255,000 miles. And then the motor mounts dropped, so you couldn't even take out the oil filter. Well, I sold it back to him for $300, and so the total capital cost to me was $2,500 to take it from 110,000 miles to 255,000 miles. And of course, my insurance and my repairs were a lot lower than on a new $30,000 car. Basically, if you say that I only saved $70,000 and I earned 4% interest on that, that would amount to another $91,000 in my retirement savings in 15 years. So that's pretty good. So far, step one, if you can cut your housing expenses in half, that's $370,000 more in your retirement account. Step two, you can save on your car expenses. That's an extra $91,000. So those two items together are about $461,000 more in your retirement account. But we're not finished yet. Let's go to step three. Am I willing to start a side business in addition to my full-time job? Well, when I started educating the public on taxes in 1980, I had a one-day seminar that would take them through the tax system, including starting a side business. And the average tax savings people indicated at the end of that one-day seminar was $5,000 a year. Well, let's just take a look at that. If you say $5,000 a year in taxes, and you netted $10,000 of income, revenue minus expenses from your side business, that total is $15,000 a year to the good. And again, if we only assume you made 4% interest over 15 years, that would be an extra $312,000 in your investment account. So if we implement strategies number one, number two, number three, that totals an extra $773,734 more in your retirement savings account in only 15 years. Well, let's come to the fourth step. The fourth step and fourth issue is, am I willing to trust my savings solely to the stock market? I'm not saying that the stock market is necessarily always bad, but the question is it appropriate given your goals and given your age? Well, let's take a look at it. We've had two major crashes in the last 10 years. The dot-com crash of 2001 to 2002, and then the real estate bust 2008 to 2009. Each time the stock market dropped by half or even more. But what if we have the lost, not just the lost decade, but the lost 25 years? Because in Japan, they've had 25 years since the peak of their stock market and real estate boom, which was in 1987, and things really haven't recovered. So we could actually have the lost 25 years, not just the lost decade. Well, let's take a look at it. If you put your money in the stock market, and let's suppose you put your whole life savings, $400,000 in the stock market, and let's say, be optimistic, and years later, it actually grew. It didn't drop. So $400,000 became $500,000, and CD interest rates are 5%. Well, you say, that's great. $500,000 in the stock market, I take it out of the risk of stock market, I get 5% in CD interest rates. Well, that's $25,000 a year to supplement my Social Security. But here's what you didn't count on. What if the interest rates dropped? And that's what has happened. 4 or 5 years ago, you could get 5% interest in a 5-year CD. Now you only get 1%. So now $500,000 times 1%, that's only $5,000 a year, $400 a month. That's not a lot of fun money from a lifetime of savings. What would be a better solution? What if we deposit the $400,000 in a private pension fund, and by the time you're retired, it would yield $56,000 of annual income guaranteed for the rest of your life? Well, this extra income would determine whether you'd be able to travel, help your kids and grandkids with their college education or just their normal bills, or knock off the items on your bucket list, whether it's taking a hot air balloon across the Pyrenees, or skiing in Switzerland, or scuba diving in Tahiti, just knocking off that bucket list like in that famous movie. Well, that's all for today. If you want to find out more about retirement issues and issues about regret, greed versus risk, and so forth, go to my blog site, drwonginvestorguide.com.